Well, welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, everyone. My name again is Jeffrey Davis. I am the host of Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm also the founder, CEO of Mage LLC. That's my management consulting firm. Also, the Family Business Association, but Mage LLC, management consulting firm. We've worked with over 700 leaders to help them define and achieve their mission and their goals through their organization. And very proud of my 35 years at Mage. But our next guest, returning from California, the one and the only Jerry Nylund, founder of Trade Press Services. And Jerry, we're going to talk about the common mistakes entrepreneurs make when publishing a book. And you know, my publisher's in California. He's quite a character.
Is he?
So, yeah, well, I didn't know you when I met him. So what are the mistakes I'm already probably making?
Well, first of all, how long did it take you to write your book?
Much longer than I thought it was going to take. I had a co-author, and we okay, I have to stick to the question. This is like a deposition. It probably took us over a year and a half, which I never expected, because I had the outline right away, and you have unless you want specifics, there were so many obstacles along the way.
That's right. And one of the challenges that book authors have is that they don't have realistic expectations. So that's mistake number one. And realistic expectations can have to do with the length of time it's going to take, the investment of resources, and not only time, but brain power. And then what happens afterwards in terms of finding a publisher or not, or self-publishing, and then the graphic design, and then the proofing. So that's one of the mistakes. A second mistake is not to do your homework. Have you researched the types of books that might be competitive with your theme? You know, what are other authors saying? You know, has it been said before? How will your book be different? So that's a second mistake. A third mistake really has to do with your ability to storytell. You know, are you just going to lay facts and figures out for people and think that will be interesting and engaging? Probably not. So that's yet another mistake that authors make when writing their books. So that's a good start.
Do you want me to tick off the list of all the things that you said that happened to me?
Well, you know, I'm not surprised, because there are a lot of people who think they have a book in them. And it's especially true for thought leaders, consultants, trainers, people in the service business. But they don't often do their homework. And so I think that can be a challenge.
Well, I know I have a book in me. And when you work with over 700 organizations in your career, you come up with a lot of stories. And I've always said that if I actually did do a tell-all, everybody would think I was lying, because I think fact is stranger than fiction. And
Right.
I see many stories on television all the time. I think I could write, for TV stuff, but I had to sort of not do a tell-all, and I had to keep it clean. That was kind of interesting. I couldn't tell all my stories, but I had trouble with my cover because I was very clear what I wanted graphically. I'm a true entrepreneur. I can be very controlling, and I knew exactly what I wanted. But even more so, I think what you're saying, there were, besides the edits, it was hard. It was a lot of copy edits. I remember my discussions, I'll bring this up to you, with the lawyers of the publisher. They got on the phone and they had something like 113 edits to my book. And I said to them, I beg your pardon?
Lawyers?
Lawyers. The publisher's lawyers. And I said, you just gutted my book. Where's the book? And by the time I was done, we only made 6 edits. But I had to argue through 113 or so edits. And it was ridiculous. And I had sign-offs from everyone in my book. And, that was a problem. Anytime you get lawyers involved, it's always a problem. Lawyers know how to break deals. I love lawyers, but they're so hyper cautious. It can be awful.
Well, they have to earn their retainers.
That's the problem. I've had that problem many times in my own career and also with my clients. When I see a lawyer on a retainer, an attorney on retainer, I get very nervous that we're going to be spinning our wheels regardless of what the topic is.
I think that's true. And I think that there are some authors who are now looking more into self-publishing as an option as opposed to traditional publishing, because you have more control over the content and it can go faster. But faster isn't always better. We were working with one self-publishing group. We had 53 cover designs because they couldn't listen. They didn't listen to what we were saying. And even though we provided them with examples of what we were looking for and what we wanted to convey and the message on the cover, it took them 53 times to get it right.
Well, it wasn't 53 times my book, but I did want my great-grandfather's pocket watch on the book cover. And there was a significant reason why with the theme of the book. They had to get it right. And the photography, I did the photography with a professional photographer. It was somewhat of a problem. But, that just sounds like somebody just being a little too picky to me. I mean, I come out, I have a lot of marketing background in my training. I worked with Fortune 100 companies. And if I had a client that revised something that long, clearly there's a problem on one side or the other. That's just too many revisions.
Right. That can be true. And I think that sometimes authors really don't know why they're writing the book. Or if they do know why they're writing the book, they get it published and then it sits on the shelf because they don't market it. And I think that's a problem.
Well, one of the biggest disappointments in my book was that, because I wrote about 6 entrepreneurs and their experiences with adversity, which is a good message for today. I actually wrote about 7 entrepreneurs in my first book and their experience with adversity because I didn't want to speak from my voice. And I'd always thought the best chapter of all was excluded from the book because right at the last minute, that person got kind of embarrassed and didn't want to go public with their story. It was more about embarrassment. It was just the chapter was so glowing about his accomplishments and his thought leadership, and he got shy. And it was always a shame. And I've gone back to him many times over the years to talk to him about it. And he says, I can send it out privately, but I cannot publish it publicly.
Isn't that interesting? But, that's not so uncommon. We've been in business for 25 years and we write articles and white papers and books and all types of content for our clients. And when we're writing articles, one of the hesitancies that our clients have is naming names. They don't want to name the name of their customer who had the challenge and they provided the solution to the challenge and the client got excellent results, but they don't want to be named. So it can be challenging.
Well, I did name names. I did name names in my book. I thought that people wouldn't believe me if I didn't provide the names in the company. So that was kind of interesting. But I could write about hundreds of entrepreneurs that I've worked with. I could probably write about 2 dozen that I'm working with right now. The problem is I don't have the time. I just don't have the time. I'm a practitioner at heart, and I wish I could tell more stories. I do in my consulting. I tell stories about other entrepreneurs. But Jerry, if there is an author out there or a wannabe author that's looking for you and looking for your help, how would they find you?
They could go to tradepressservices.com They can email me at Jerry, Gerri, at tradepressservices.com, or they could call 805-496-8850.
Well, Jerry, thanks for being on the show again. We appreciate it. You're now a member of the Radio Entrepreneurs family because you've been on more than once. And
Thank
again,
you.
if you want to speak with me, you can find me at jdavis at MAGE right there, USA.com.
I've got your number.
And I didn't make up that name, Mage, but I did have an original partner who's no longer with us, who actually was a professional Scrabble player who picked that name out of the Scrabble dictionary. So it's a real word.
What does it mean?
The Magi come from the wise men, and the
Ah.
wise men worked for kings and queens and leaders to provide them wisdom to run their kingdoms more effectively. And
And
that's,
that's
really the
what
purpose.
you do.
That's what we try to do, provide wisdom to leaders. So, and I used to be young, so some people questioned me about my wisdom when I was younger, but now that I'm getting old, some people just automatically assume that I'm wise. So
Well, that's because you have a few gray hairs.
I do have a few, not as much as I would have assumed I would have at this age. So I always looked a little bit young, but that's because I live a pretty pure life. So I'm all about work and exercise and sleep and eat healthy. So I don't do, I'm not really a drinker or a smoker. So that takes its toll on people.
It sure does. And when you make that trip to California and in your car and want to have lunch in Venice Beach, I'm right there with you.
Oh boy, would that sound like fun? Believe me, that's why I bought the car I have. I thought I was going to be doing some major road trips, but now road trips, I'm going to have to wait till maybe towards the end of 2021. So, Jerry, thanks for being on the
Thank
show.
you.
We appreciate it.
Have a good day.